Chase, happy Wednesday to you. It is the 29th day of January somehow. Feels a lot like the 29th day of November.
Yeah, I mean, it feels nice outside. Like today
It
was like
does.
one of the first days I could just walk outside and be like, wow, it's actually kind of comfortable out here.
It's still weird. So where we're at in the Midwest, they don't take very good care of the roads, and we have a lot of snow in some areas that I
Yeah.
discovered today. Actually, still in like cars are parked behind it; they can't move anywhere. Certain parts of downtown completely a disaster. It's wild out there.
Yeah, like the north side of my house is the front, and that's it still has a bunch of snow because it's mostly in the shade all day. But my
Sure,
backyard is almost completely snow free at this point. It's
wonderful.
just it's odd. It's also
It's
just
odd.
odd to walk around when it's like 40 something degrees and
Yeah,
there's still a bunch of snow around. You're like, this is supposed to melt at this
it's
temperature,
supposed to
right?
melt. And then I even heard something about like infrastructure. There's drains that are blocked right now by ice
Mm,
still, and that
sure.
water has to go there. I don't know how true or legit that is, but it's not great. But I think it is going to stay a little bit warmer for a bit here in the Midwest, and hopefully there's no more damage from any of this weather. Fingers crossed.
That'd be nice.
Chase, this is a deep dive, our first one of 2025. We've been hit or miss with these, I'd say, from a scheduling standpoint. Like we've kind of adopted more of like a singular topic for our news stories. We've done some of these still where it's just been you and I think that I really like the rhythm we have with it. But why don't you explain, if anybody's new to the show, what a deep dive is here?
Yeah, deep dive is kind of our way to talk about something, as the name might suggest, more in depth,
Ooh,
and especially
nice.
something that is less news topical.
Mm-hmm.
We have episodes where we do news and talk about news topics, but this allows us to kind of talk more historical stuff. We've done a lot of those in the past. Some of my favorites are where we take an old video game magazine and just run through it and find passages that we like or see how they're talking about games. Or I think there was one Game Informer we were looking at that was talking about online services and comparing the online services
Yeah.
among the big three, and you're like, some of those predictions did not pan out correctly. um,
Yep.
so it's just kind of our way of having a bit of a free for all and talking about something that interests us. And this one is going to be a list. We
We like list.
Yeah, lists are fun. Lists are fun to
They're good.
make. Lists are fun to talk about, and I think they're fun to listen to too. So
I agree.
hope people enjoy this. We each brought our top five of a certain topic, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But that should be fun.
It
Looking
should be
forward to it.
really cool. I appreciate these. You are, I think, a really great historian. We both have been, for anybody who doesn't know who we are, like Chase and I are in our 30s, and we have been playing video games for decades. And so we've got a lot of nostalgia, history, affinity, whatever you would like to say, for games that made us. And obviously, we talk a lot about what's happening today. But I like deep dives because Chase always takes us on a journey when we do this, but it gives us a chance to pay respect and have a great time. And also, like, the one thing I've really appreciated is when we do a list like this, I learn a little bit more about Chase because we became friends later in life, and these formative years we didn't share together as friends then, and we get to hear
Yeah,
about similar things that we experienced and how they shaped us. So I'm really excited about that.
I love to learn.
We love to learn, as you'll find out if you tune into our streams on Monday nights, where we teach you, the gamers, how to game in a strategy setting for Casual Mondays. Chase, but before we get into one particular game, I want to update you on one because you've convinced me to play Dynasty Warriors, and I want to have a conversation with you
Yes.
about that game. But before I can, you asked me to play a video game at the beginning of this month called Eternal Strands, and I did that. I played the video game so you could
Yeah.
learn because you
Okay.
love to learn.
I
It,
do.
this is Yellow Brick Games. At the time that you talked about this game, we did not know, at least I didn't, that this is made up of at least part of the original development team behind Dragon Age Origins.
Okay.
This is an action RPG. It is dealing, like when you saw the trailer, I think maybe we talked about potentially Breath of the Wild inspired. I think we talked about Shadow of the Colossus inspired.
Yeah.
And I would also now say it's probably a little Monster Hunter adjacent, not to the degree that like you would maybe think like from a difficulty standpoint, because this game is not that. But you are collecting materials, and the whole loop of this game is exploring out into this area, encountering enemies that give you mats that you bring back to your base, where you have a entourage of people, not like a base that you build, but I guess a base of operations. And from there, when you get the materials, that's how you get like better armor, better weapons. So it's not like you're constantly gathering it, but that's the loop. Like you have to go and find new things to make new
And
things.
what do they call that? Transforming materials into things that you want.
Crafting.
Oh, right. Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
so
but you
not
don't
a
get
game for me.
it's not. I don't think that. I get where your aversion would be on it, just from what I said here, but it does not feel at all like it. It's like you fought a boss, and that boss has a key that you kind of take back, and they turn that into something. But it is like
Is it like Monster Hunter in a way where there are drop chances, and sometimes those bosses do not drop those keys?
No. It's not like that from what I've encountered so far. It's more okay. There is an ability to like get a blueprint of new armor, a new armor type that you can bring back to camp, and they can make you a whole new armor set. Or they have this ability to kind of reconfigure what you already have. And so you might kill an enemy that drops a different type of leather than the other. It's like a hardened leather or soft leather, soft wood, etc. And that changes the way it looks on you, but also it's like resistance. So if you wanted to have more of like an ice resistant build for whatever you were fighting, you can go back and do that sort of thing. So that's like the grinding part. Like, oh, I need 5 woven material, but it's like rarity from loot coloring. So if I was, what's a good example of this? In the game, there's a wool that obviously is going to be more warmer, so it's going to have an ice resistance to it. But when you go to upgrade, it's like, hey, you need 3 woven items, and there's rarity levels of it. So this one that I had was a blue, which was a rare, not like an uncommon, and it gave me a +1/2 on defense and offense, and then also like a 5 hit rate. So you get like a little bump to your overall stat, and that's how you want to keep moving your character up to take on bigger shit.
Okay.
The colossal fight is really neat. That's like the thing I think that is probably the best. The hinges and parts of the beast that you're going up, you have to find a weak point to break the armor off to expose skin, and then you can like stab that a bunch, and then it like once you do enough damage on that part, it hardens to where you can't do anything else to it, and you take these huge creatures down and get your points and go from there. And it's really, really slick. So that stuff all works well. It looks gorgeous. This plays like a B game, and I mean that in the best way possible. It does not like mean a slight to it, but I think
that was the thing that we were maybe a little bit worried about when we were looking at it. It's like this feels like it's really ambitious for
a small
what
group.
seems like a small team, what seems like a newer team, even if it sounds like from what you're saying they have some chops working on previous style games that are, at least in the ballpark. So hearing that, it's got a lot of cool ideas, but it's not like the most polished thing. I think that's maybe the best you could hope for.
Yeah, and if I say this, I think you'll get it, and hopefully our listeners do, but this would be like a fantastic Xbox 360 game. Like people would have lost their mind on it for that.
They made a lot of very good games on the Xbox
360. 100%. But you also have some elemental stuff, which is cool. Like, and that feels a little janky the way like mechanically that you're engaging with like throwing out ice, because it sticks on everything and you can use it to cross fire and make a path, but it comes out of you in a weird way. Like it just doesn't feel normal for like how it's bursting. It just the game feel is off for it. And I think that's the biggest thing is like the game doesn't feel wonderful. It's pretty swimmy, but that's also kind of how the games were then. So I can't fault it because it feels of a way, but I also just don't think it plays great in a modern video game setting any longer, if that makes sense here.
Yeah, I think so.
But the game is going to set you back not a whole lot of money, $40. There's a demo right now on PC that you can check out. This is also on Game Pass, and it's a perfect place to check it out. Like, please play it there. The biggest thing that's happening is February, which you'll find out next week, is stacked. And so I just think this is going to come and go pretty quick because it's going to get lost in the sauce, but could be wrong. It's sitting at a very positive right now. So who's to say?
Good for them.
Yeah. So that's Eternal Strands. But Chase, let's talk about the real meat and potatoes here.
Fuck yeah, the real meat buns.
The real meat buns. Dynasty Warriors Origins. You spent what, 30 minutes? Maybe longer, saying how great it was.
Oh, hang on, hang on. I believe I specifically told you I don't think this is a game you need to play.
Well,
Before also saying I'm having a really good time with it. And then what seemed like 20 minutes later, you send me a screenshot, or no, sorry, a video
yeah,
of you downloading the game on Steam
yeah,
and installing
yeah.
it. And I went, okay, man, I don't know what to tell you, but okay, good luck. I hope you like it.
Good luck is what he tells me. I will tell you right now. I think Dynasty Warriors Origins is really cool. I think
That's awesome. I'm glad.
I think that's a very cool video game. I think it's an incredibly dumb video game, and
Absolutely.
I mean that like in a good way. Like this
Yeah.
is there is nothing better than dumb fun right now, and I think this game kind of coming out when it did for me. I don't need a deep thinker right now. I'm gonna have those soon. I need a distraction. Period. Like I need something to take my mind off
Yeah.
of,
It's
gesturing
like it is like a
broadly.
really good January game, but specifically, it's a very good this January game.
Yes, 100%. And so for me, there's something that like my lizard brain likes of, okay, press button quick, bodies go boom, like, and the game is so over the top that I can jump in the air and somehow there's 50 bodies around me because of what I did. I love it. It's great. It reminds me of what I loved about Hyrule Warriors, and Zelda really propelled me into that, but there was a cool loop and mechanic as well.
Mhm.
But so far, I'm just like really enjoying the side missions that pop up. The progression makes complete sense to me on this one. Like I understand completely of go out here, do this, get these currencies, make these weapons go up higher. It's really fucking cool. Are you still having fun with it deep into it? Because early on
Yeah,
it was good for you, right?
yeah, and I'm still enjoying it. There are a couple little annoyances that I have. I didn't mention this last week, but I mentioned it right after we stopped recording. The thing that probably bugs me the most is that in the cutscenes,
Yes.
it still has you, with the exception of like a couple of them that are full video. Um, Most of the cutscenes require you to continue to button through the dialogue,
Yeah.
which isn't a big deal, but also it's a lot of button pressing. And I wish there was an option that just says, autoplay these, because the other
Dude,
issue that I'm
thank
running
you.
into is that the sometimes the camera will stay on the character, and
Yes.
like the frame will
Yes.
stay the same frame. And when you button, even if they're done talking and you wait a little bit, you hit the button and it still like snaps. Like you see that snap of like,
Yes.
oh, next line of dialogue is loading up now. And it's like, man, I wish I could just tell you
Hmm.
play them at whatever speed you need to play them, but make all of these smooth instead of these little jaggy
Yeah.
dips that happen every once in a while. It's not a huge deal, but I have found myself playing this mini game of like, how much longer do I have to wait after they finish the last word to
Yes.
make this a smooth transition to the next line?
Yep. I'm with you.
And man, it'd be nice if there was a way to just have those play,
I,
so I
I
could
don't
also just
disagree.
like let the story wash over me instead of having to constantly button press through every single line. And there are a lot of lines.
There's a lot of lines. I just got my third weapon type, which I
Okay.
believe is like gauntlets or claws or
Hmm.
something like that. It's different. I didn't really understand the stance stuff, but I found some fun with it.
I don't like the gauntlets, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm the cool one of the cool things though is that the game relatively naturally gives you good reasons to try weapons. It
Yeah.
goes, okay, here's like some training stuff. Then we'll give you a bunch of skill points if you do these things. And oh, it just has something to do with the weapon you just got. Why don't you give it a shot? And you go,
Totally.
okay, sure, I could use the skill points, and this isn't that hard to pull off. And they keep doing that over the course of the game, and it's not always for the most brand new weapon either. Like I
Right.
just got a mission tonight as I was playing that goes, hey, if you can kill stuff with battle arts, that's what they're called.
Yeah.
Like defeat 100 enemies with battle arts using the gauntlets. And I went, okay, well, I guess I'll go back to gauntlets for a mission
Right.
and defeat those 100 guys and get those skill points. But then, I'll probably go back to the spear because I like the spear.
I love the
But who
spear.
knows? Maybe playing it this time, I'll go, you know what? Actually, I found some cool tech with the gauntlets, and maybe I'll keep using the gauntlets a little bit more. And I think they do a good job of, encouraging you to try everything because
Yep.
you're not going to lose out by trying different things.
No, and the one thing I really liked, and I mean, I knew it wasn't going to be there based off what you shared, but in Hyrule Warriors, and the story really kind of demanded this, as bullshit would, break out away from where you were on the map, you could just jump to that character and then you could
Mm.
send them to another spot. And I really like that mechanic a whole lot. But everything else for me feels, I think you said it would, like right at home. And the mechanics there are not overwhelming. I have had to reapproach enemy types. I'm like, okay, you need to be a bit more guarded here. You just can't button your mash, your way to victory with them. But there was a nice little bump when I started to get the EX spear and the sword. And now that I have those, I really felt I could control the tune of the battle a little bit more than I could before. It was a bit more even match, and now I have a slight advantage there. But I like the combos. The battle arts are a lot of fun. I have enjoyed like the strategy of like, okay, let's meet back up here, and then there's a cool cutscene where you can like storm together. And I think the characters are really interesting so far. Like I'm having, like my mind does go a little ADHD on the story bits, but for
Well,
them,
it's I'm sure it's also tough because here's a bunch of names. None of them mean
yes,
anything to you. They
correct,
all kind of sound the same, even though
indeed.
they're spelled very
And I
differently.
do not mean to
You're
be a
like,
dick by that. Like I should learn this.
no, no, absolutely, and it's tough for everybody. Like
Hmm.
as somebody who had heard them, when my first Dynasty Warriors was Dynasty Warriors 3 back on the PlayStation
Okay,
2 and original Xbox, and I'll tell you, the voice actors who did that, I think they did a great slash terrible job that I
sure,
love. Um, but they mispronounce all the names because they don't know. Like they call him Cow Cow
right.
in
But
Dynasty
isn't
Warriors
it
3.
Sao Sao?
It's supposed to be Sao Sao, yeah,
Right,
but it's spelled CAO
and
CAO.
it does
So
look that
I
way.
get, and I wouldn't begrudge anybody for saying Cow
Sure,
Cow. It's fun to say Cow Cow. I get it.
Cow Cow's a good time.
Um, but yeah, it's supposed to be Sao Sao, and even some of these have been. I've questioned whether they're actually getting it right now,
Hmm.
or if what is actually right. Like
Right,
I know there's a guy named well I believe it's pronounced Sun Chuan.
Sun
Sun
Chuan. Okay,
yeah. But it looks like Sun Chan, or actually it looks like Sun Quan because it got QU. And you're like, it's tough. And you hear some of the voice acting, and they're slightly different when different people say different names, and so
yeah.
it's difficult. But for the most part, I think one of the things they do really well in this game and most Dynasty Warriors games is they give the characters really unique silhouettes, so you
Hmm.
can kind of go, okay, that's who I'm dealing with. Even if you don't know how to pronounce this guy's name, like, oh, he's the guy who's got that big sword and his hair's a little spiky and it goes this way, or like
Yeah,
this guy has like some weird Chinese cowboy hat, and his things that he's really fast. So okay, I understand that. If I ever run into him again, I'll know that
yeah.
guy. I might
You
not
know
know
this
his
guy.
name, but I at least know that guy. So that stuff kind of helps. If you see the guy in green with two giants next to him, it's like, oh, that's Leo Bay, obviously, because like he's got
Yes,
his sworn brothers
he's got
with him. That
always.
makes sense. Um,
I'll talk about it next week, but I did fire up the early access. Well, it's not early access like from a launch, but if you buy a version, you get to play it early of Sniper Elite Resistance. And there is something like familiar about like that game is just a copy paste of 5, which great.
I heard somebody say it was real formulaic, which is like, oh, that's a little sad, but at the same time, that seems like kind of what you want out of these games, right?
Yeah, like I want to go in and blow Nazi balls off. Like I want to do
Yeah,
that. Like that's what I'm here to do. Let me shoot the nuts off those Nazis. And that's the same thing here. Like I do not need a lot more than just blowing bodies up, having a great time
right.
fighting through it. Like
Every fight you're killing 1,000, 2,000
yes,
guys, and somebody might go, "Isn't that a little repetitive?" I'm like, yeah, but also it's fun as fuck. So
it's
I'm
fun as
having a great
fuck.
time.
And you know what? Ending those combos and like ending it and hearing the chants and like the rally around you, like I get the same sensation of enjoyment every time. Like, it's not like I get tired of it. I don't get tired of X-rays of people's skulls blowing away in Sniper Elite. I
Yeah.
don't get tired of watching bodies flail in this. Like, that's what I'm here for, motherfuckers. Like, I don't need to be fed steak every meal. Like, sometimes a hot pocket or a pizza fucking out of the
Yeah.
oven does the trick. And I'm not saying that to like say these are bad quality things. There's something about ease and comfort and just, I've had a day.
Yeah.
I need to go on autopilot for a bit and let me do
Oh yeah,
that this way.
it's totally video game comfort food.
Yeah,
But I think they also have found enough things to make it interesting, and
agreed.
especially on higher difficulties, enough stuff to keep you engaged if you really want to be engaged. And I think that's just a great quality of
Mm-hmm.
Dynasty Warriors is that it's always been like this. You could make it as punishingly difficult as you want it to be, but also if you wanted to just chill out and kill a bunch of dudes, you can absolutely do that. And the game supports both play styles, and I think that's great. We did one last thing for me on
Please.
this. We did mention last week, with the origins in the title, and hearing about like how long to beat had it at.
Yeah,
I was a little worried or wondering, okay, how far into the story does it go?
right.
And I just curiosity got the best of me. I was like, okay, I'm just going to look up the chapters, and it looks like it ends with Chibi, which obviously, Bobby, you know about the Battle of Chibi, right? Why don't
I
why
mean,
you tell the
I've
folks a
been
little bit about
on bated breath to get there. I mean, Chibi talks shit. We had to deal something with it.
it?
So
Uh
there
huh.
we went. That's
Yeah.
it.
Uh huh. Absolutely. Chibi is a place, but other than that, great.
Chibi talks a lot of shit still. Doesn't change it. The original Windy
It's
City.
it's a big naval battle. It's a huge moment in the book. And in abridged versions of the book, I believe, or some abridged versions of the book, they'll end it there because
Oh,
that's like a big climactic moment.
sure.
They make movies about that. If you want to see a cool ass movie, actually two cool ass movies because there's a part one and part two. Red Cliffs is the fucking that
Is
movie
it
is
this
so good.
battle?
Yes, yeah. Red
Okay.
Cliffs. It's also sometimes known as the Battle of Chibi, but yeah, Red
Okay.
Cliff is that movie's fucking
Is
rules.
it older,
Um,
newer?
it's in the middle. Who's the guy, the director, the action
Michael
director?
Bay.
No, like Hong
Michael
Kong
Bay
action.
presents Red Cliffs.
Um, why did I look this up? I could just look up Red Cliffs. Man, it's gonna piss me off that I cannot remember his name.
I'm looking it up here.
Um,
Red
it's
Cliffs movie.
yeah. John Woo. Yes, that's the one I'm looking
Ah,
for.
yes. John.
Obviously, John
Okay.
Woo. So the action stuff is really cool. It's a great movie. Two great
2008,
movies.
2009. Okay.
So not super new, but not
Yeah,
super
yeah.
old. Yeah, those
Red
movies are
Cliff. All right.
fantastic. But it is all about this battle or the lead up to this battle, and a lot of the stories do end there. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
adaptations of Dynasty Warrior, or sorry, Romance of the Three Kingdoms end there because what happens after that is more depressing.
Oh.
I don't want to. I guess I don't want to spoil ancient Chinese history for you, but Cao Cao wins. Like,
Oh.
despite how the Battle of Chibi does not go his way. It's like a big blow to Cao Cao where everybody kind of comes together and goes, "Fuck that guy," especially.
Yeah. Sure.
And it's a really cool moment, and everybody feels good, and they can go home happy. But then the real answer is like that guy just had a bigger army, and so he's just like, okay,
Bigger is
I'll take
better,
an
they
L
say.
here, and I'll get you back in the end. And then also like everybody starts to have sons and get old, and all of them
Damn.
die, and all
Life.
their sons are basically all of their sons are real like fail son kind of guys, and they all suck in different ways. And
Fuck
it's
them.
not a satisfying conclusion exactly of how history goes. It's just they all got old, and some newer, shittier people came in and made it shittier.
That's
And
life.
we just ended the book at some point because all the cool guys are gone.
Damn.
So this game goes, hey, what if we didn't have to deal with any of the fail sons and the bullshit? What if we ended it on like the big cool battle everybody likes? Which is perfectly fine by me. Like that's a incredibly good chunk. You are getting you're getting the Yellow Turban Rebellion, which like I said last week goes on pretty decently long. It's like a whole big chapter of the game Then you get the second, which is a big fight with Dong Shuo and Lu Bu stuff, and that's also really cool. I'm in chapter 3 right now, which is kind of the formation of the three kingdoms, and I'm getting to the point where they are going to have the split where you
Okay.
have to pick who you want to be with, and then it sounds like you have three unique routes when you do that. So
Interesting.
it's probably something that I will, go one route on and then go back and play the other two routes when I want to. I did make sure I made like a specific save of like, here's where I'm gonna save before the big
Yeah.
moment. I wonder if they even have like an ability to go like a new game
Oh, just
plus where
like,
it just
yeah,
takes you right back to that moment. It's
yeah,
possible.
that'd be cool.
So we'll see. But
All
I've been
right.
having a great time. I'm liking the story stuff. It's been really fun for me to, you know, mostly recognize characters based on playing old Dynasty Warriors games and be like, oh, is that guy? And then he comes up and he goes, "That's my name," and I'm like, "That's him! Yeah, it's that guy! I love that guy!" Or like seeing somebody like Gan Ning, who is probably my favorite Dynasty Warriors guy ever, and seeing him and go like, is he in the? He's not in the book that early, is he? And then also you look at him and go, "What have they done to my boy?
They, yeah, what did they do to him?
He
They
used to be so
massacred my
cool, and,
boy.
and he's less cool now. Whatever." So it's been fun. I'm enjoying that game quite a bit.
Awesome. Well, Chase, we got a deep dive to get into, man.
We do.
And for those of you who are tuning in, our deep dive is going to be about best controllers. And we don't have anything to show you maybe on
Here's a
stream.
controller. I found a controller.
We have a controller. Hey, I gave you that controller.
You did. It's not one of my top 5 controllers, but it is.
It's a very good one.
It's a good controller, and it's the
Yeah.
closest one I had to me.
We're going to give you a list from each of us of our top 5 controllers of all time, and maybe an honorable mention alongside it. But having said all of that, Chase, is there any rules that you gave me for what to expect with this list? What were the
No,
rules?
I think we can say whatever you wanted to. You asked me at one point, like, are we just doing mainline consoles? And I went, no, anything's on the table. If it helps you control a video game, I think you can call it out as something here.
Yeah,
So we each brought 5, and it sounds like we each have an honorable mention. And I think we probably, in the same way that we've done top 10 lists for Game of the Year before, we'll just kind of go back and forth and have a conversation about these, because I think it'll be fun. It'll be a nice
agreed.
walk down memory lane.
So why don't we start with 5, get to 1, and then do honorable mention? How's that work?
Ooh, let's do honorable mention first. Let's get that out of the way.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
because we want to end on the best stuff, right?
That's fair. I mean, honorable mention. For me, I'll start here.
Yeah.
Is the backbone. If you don't know what the backbone is, that is the kind of spring-loaded, stretchy mobile phone, USB-C or Lightning at the time, mobile controller that you can use. It has some really great design. It is fantastic, not only as an on your controller, but it also has a pass-through method that allows you to plug it into an iPad via USB-C cable, and you can control a game on your iPad if you are on the go. You can also do the same thing for literally anything that requires a USB-C connection. But it's $100. It has its own little overlay interface that comes in there with it. And while I don't mobile game as much anymore because we've solved that problem with the Switch and the handheld PCs these days, there was a point in time where like that's kind of how I played games on the go, and I think a lot of people in the world still do. And this is like a really smart design for solving a shitty problem of touch controls on the go.
Yeah, like especially when you had the like people were jailbreaking iPhones and
Mm-hmm.
putting emulators and stuff on there, and it's a nice way. Like it's a relatively decently powerful one of those ROM boxes,
Yeah,
and now you've got a halfway decent controller that attaches to it, and it just kind of works, and it's your
yeah,
phone. You have your phone on you, right?
yeah,
So it's super nice when you don't have a more specialized machine like an analog pocket or like the handheld PCs that you're talking
yep,
about. And it was certainly a big deal at the time. I remember you pitching me pretty hard on
yeah.
maybe getting one, and I just I didn't play stuff on my phone outside of like the super touchscreen stuff that was on the App Store.
There's a
Um,
Sony branded one of these, which is fucking crazy. Like they put that out to do remote play on your phone. Like it's
yeah.
literally a Sony fucking thing. It's great.
You pay you paid for YouTube, right? Like you don't get any
Hmm.
ads on YouTube.
Yeah.
So you've thankfully been missing out on some of the worst new YouTube ads that I
Oh
keep getting
no.
served to me. And it's basically the product is like it's the product actually doesn't seem too terrible, but it's like a thing that goes on the back of your phone,
Yeah.
and or it's like a case for your phone, but it like slides out like it's a slider phone.
Oh yeah. Phil put that in
Uh,
our Discord.
yeah, it seems kind of cool. The
It,
problem is the ads suck so much because the inventor guy, like they start to show you the cool thing, and then he like cuts in and goes, "Hey, so like gaming sucks right now." It's like, no, it doesn't. Gaming is actually really fucking good right now. There's all sorts of ways
oh
to play video
God. Yuck.
games. And
Yuck.
then like after that, he gets into like, I wanted to find like a cool controller for my phone, and I didn't like any of the ones that are out there. And it's like, okay, it's fine, whatever. But I just hate the way because it always hits before the skip button
Oh
where he's like, "Hey, gaming sucks right now." It's like, shut the fuck up.
God. Yuck. Well, yeah.
I
Backbone.
get served all the fucking time.
While it's not something I use anymore, I think it's a great honorable mention for best controller because it solved a big problem.
Yeah, I will say you've touched a backbone uh, later than I have touched my honorable mention controller
Oh,
because I think it's been over a decade
okay.
since probably way over a decade since I've touched my number 5 controller. Um, my number 5 controller is an arcade cabinet.
Wait, hang on.
It is.
Hang on. You didn't do your
Oh,
honorable
sorry, not
mention.
number 5. Honorable mention. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. Sorry. My honorable mention is an arcade cabinet. It's Arctic Thunder.
Okay.
Bobby, have you ever played Arctic Thunder?
That's the racer, right?
That's the snowmobile
Yeah.
racer.
Yeah.
Yes, that
Yeah.
has the fans that
Yeah.
blow
Yeah.
air on
I'm
you
aware.
while you.
God, I hate this. This is not.
Oh, it's so good.
You would do. God, this is the most chase fucking thing. Jesus
It's why it's
Christ.
an honorable mention. It's a fun one. It's a
It's
fun
fun.
one.
It's fun. God,
It
I'm
is
mad
fun.
that I didn't think about something like that. Okay, fair.
Yeah, there's also like you could have put Star Wars Arcade on here if you
I
wanted
know
to,
I
but
could
you
have
didn't.
done.
But you didn't. But yeah, I remember loving this. I played the most Arctic Thunder at Buffalo Wild Wings in Columbia,
God,
Missouri.
that snowmobile had to just smell a
Oh, I'm
certain type.
sure. I'm
A
sure. But
fucking
I just
all these sweat hogs just rubbing their fucking meat paws all over that goddamn
oh yeah,
thing.
just sauce everywhere.
You know nobody there wiped that thing down either. Jesus Christ, that thing was crusty, I bet. Ugh.
But I just remember having such a great time playing that game,
I'm
and like
sure
it was
somebody
such like
had
an
to.
experience where there were other kind of bike games that you could play, not at that Buffalo Wild Wings, but there's plenty of those kinds of games out there. But to
Yeah,
have the small touch of we put a couple of fans that blow cold air on you while you're Arctic racing, it's like, you know what?
probably
I think
blowing
that's
that
fucking
fucking
great.
ranch off your cheeks. God.
So I remember loving that one a lot. I did look up some YouTube videos of like a guy repairing a machine, and when I saw the machine, I was like, man, that doesn't look nearly as cool as I remember because I
No.
remember it being the coolest fucking
You
thing.
probably looked real slick on it, I bet.
Oh yeah, I'm sure everybody looks real cool playing Arctic Thunder, but man, it was. I
All
remember it
right.
being a cool experience.
Arctic
So
Thunder, honorable mention. It's at least we've mentioned
that's
it.
mine.
I don't know
Yep.
how honorable it was.
Bobby, what's your number 5?
Guitar Hero Explorer, motherfucker.
Hell yeah, that's a good one. Guitar
That
Hero
is
2 was the Explorer, right?
it was. And I guess 3 also. But yeah. The Explorer was the like metal looking one, if you're not familiar. But I there is another company right now. I can't remember who it is. They've made a handheld, like, so the controller, like imagine like one of those like microcontrollers. I'm holding up my phone right now for those listening.
Okay.
On the top of it, think about like how a cassette Walkman had the buttons
Yeah.
on the top.
Mm-hmm.
So the controller actually has your highway keys from the Guitar Hero.
So I have this. Well,
You,
I probably don't have the one you're talking about, but the Guitar Hero for DS
okay, yeah,
had an
yeah,
attachment that like went into the GBA slot and
yes.
had those keys. Yeah, yeah.
So it's
It was
like that.
terrible. I
Yeah,
hated I hated that.
I don't know how good this thing would be, but regardless, I think Guitar Hero just really revolutionized and made like nobody looked cool playing this. Let's get it right. Let's not get it twisted. It's not Arctic Thunder bad, but you didn't
Yeah.
look as cool as you probably felt playing in
No,
this thing.
certainly not. Yeah.
And I think it solved a really good input problem for rhythm games that took it away from face button mapping, because this game would have just been fucking garbage if it was just like, hey, play these rock songs on your controller or whatever. But I think it's a great, just overall design, really fucking cool.
Yeah. I'm more of a flying V man myself. We're
Sure.
talking about like weirdly shaped guitars, but I had a fantastic time with that Explorer on the
Yeah.
360. Yeah, it was great.
What about you, man?
My number 5 is also, it's not a cop out exactly. It's the controller for the thing, but it's the original Game Boy Advance. Uh, I While I don't love the original Game Boy Advance as like a system,
Yeah.
I do think it, at least from a controller perspective, it feels the best in your hands.
Sure.
Like it's contoured in such a way where it feels really good. I think the GBA SP is a much nicer looking system. I would
Yeah.
much prefer to play one of those any day of the week.
Couldn't you?
But also, like it cramps. Like you're so
It
cramped.
is cramped, but couldn't you use the Game Boy Advance as an input device on like a home console?
On
Wasn't
a
there a kit?
GameCube for certain things.
Yeah. Okay.
Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles and Animal Crossing, you could like send your guy off on the island, and the
Yeah.
island
Yeah.
would be on the Game Boy Advance. Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, you could have like a Tamagotchi where you like sent your Chow to the Game Boy as you walked around.
Sure.
There was certainly some connectivity stuff you could do, but you wouldn't use it as a controller as much. Not in the way that you could use your 3DS as a controller for Smash Brothers
Yeah.
on the Wii U, which is fucking wild that they allowed you to do that. Also wild that anybody would want to do that. I think I did that once. Like we had it all. Everybody was playing it at work, and I was like, this can also be a controller, so I'll be over here on this, and you guys can have the other
Sure.
4 actual controllers, and we could play with a lot of people. But yeah, no, you could use the GBA for a device like that. But I just think the original GBA
Yeah.
felt really good in the hand, even if I think the design itself was not awesome.
I have been working angles for a while now on incorporating the form factor of the Game Boy Advance into some sort of branding for our show. I've had it pulled up numerous times, and I will find a way this year, I think, in this rebrand we've been doing to incorporate it even as a little onesie twosie thing. But I've been working on that for a while.
Yeah.
All right, Chase.
Yeah, like because the SP just doesn't feel good at all. The micro, I love the micro's design, but it also, in these meaty paws, just doesn't
Totally.
It doesn't feel substantial enough. But the original GBA just had that good feel.
And apologies, I've been in meetings all week, like long days. My voice is shot, so I'm sorry that's coming through here. My number 4 though, GameCube Wavebird.
Hell yeah.
There was something about this at the time that just felt fucking magic. Like this
it was
thing,
magic. But we hadn't gotten this.
Yes.
I mean, I guess there had been wireless controllers before that, but none that felt so perfect and were so plug and play.
Really quick, if one of the controllers I say or you say is like higher up for the other person, let's have that conversation at the higher level. Fair?
Okay. Yeah.
Do you have this on there?
Not exactly.
Do you want to have this conversation later?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's have the conversation later.
That's fair, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay. What is your number 4?
My number 4 is the Xbox Controller S. So this is for the original Xbox.
Big fucking deal.
I didn't like the Duke. It's too big. It's the other way. Too
I
big
love the Duke.
I know you love the Duke.
I love the fucking Duke.
I think more than the size of the thing, I didn't like the buttons.
Mm-hmm.
Like the buttons were like the little like chiclet-y kind of
buttons. Yeah, they were like very oblong.
Yeah, and I wanted that big circle M&M.
Yeah.
And so the controller S fixed a lot of those problems. It put the black and white buttons in an easier spot. and I think that controller just feels
It's a
really
great
fucking good.
controller. It's a
I had
great
a great
controller.
time with it. Like even getting into the 360 era, I know a lot of people like those 360 controllers. I didn't like the D-pad on them, not nearly as much as I liked the whole thing that was the controller S. So
Yeah.
that is my number 4. I love that thing.
Awesome, man. My number 3, Chase, is the Xbox 360 controller.
I figured. I mean, it's a great controller. Don't get me wrong.
It's the Corvette of gaming. It felt so fucking good at the time. I think now, like going back to it's like nostalgia driving it for me. I really do like the Elite. My daily driver here on this computer, it's not going to be on my list, is the Elite Series 2. Like I use this if I am playing a controller on my
I
PC
hear
here.
people really like the Elite Series 2. Like the Elite Series 1 apparently like it shatters in your hand
Yeah,
and is
dude.
garbage, but the 2 seems like
This
the one to get.
I didn't want to have both of on. I don't want to have two Xbox controllers on here, and the 360
Sure.
I think was like the greatest precursor for this. But this is a fantastic controller. But the 360 just felt insane. Like the accessories that went with it to have like the rechargeable battery pack that you could put onto it, just the overall form factor, like I loved the indication with the light on who was player 1, 2, 3, or 4. I thought that was really fucking slick. I loved the home button and just like how that integrated in. Like I hadn't really experienced something like that to the degree. And I
Going
think
from those black and white buttons that were like
yes,
on like even on the controller S, which
yeah,
again I love, like they were still like on the side, on the right side, like in a weird spot.
absolutely,
So just having them be start and back buttons in the middle of the
yeah,
controller, along with that big home button,
it's
totally,
great.
absolutely.
And I thought the joysticks felt really nice, like both the movement and the height, and even just like going and making shooters at the time, because I never used a mouse and keyboard.
Yeah,
That controller just felt primed and ready for fucking hitting people with really great shots in a first person shooter. It was a really cool controller, man. Really
it
cool.
really was really good. Good one.
What's your 3?
My number 3 is the Rock Band 1 guitar, the
Okay.
Stratocaster. Yeah, I think as like a controller that you're clicking buttons on, the Explorer is probably the better one. Like I
Sure.
love the click that you get out of the strum bar.
Yep.
Um, that you don't like the one on the Rock Band one is a little gummier, um, but I think overall it just feels like a better thing.
Is that the
Like
one that
it's a
had
bigger.
closer to like the body of the
No,
guitar?
I don't think. God, was the Rock Band 1? I think that might have been like a Rock Band 2 one. I
They
know
added
they
that,
added
right?
that later.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
That makes
they
sense.
definitely added that later. So you could do like, oh, I'm gonna do my solo where I go
Yeah.
up the keys, and it's like, yeah, but
Yes.
it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah.
Um,
You look like a bigger
but
dork.
but I think
Congratulations.
the size of that Stratocaster was bigger than the Explorer. It felt a little nicer. It felt a little bit more premium than the Explorer generally.
Yeah.
Even though I think like when you actually got to playing the game, it felt like, oh, maybe it misclicks a little bit more than the Explorer did. But I think over also just the whammy bar.
Yeah,
That
dude.
whammy bar was so good. That whammy
I
bar.
mean, what a time. It feels weird, like how popular that just concept was and how it just is gone. Like, I know
Yeah.
they're trying to bring it back right now. You can buy today, and apparently it's a damn good guitar. Like but you have to use Fortnite Festival, or you have to find a way to go down the rabbit hole that is like basically making your own pirated versions of the songs now.
Yeah, yeah. There's plenty of that if you want to go down
Yeah,
that road and get into like the guitar freaks area,
yeah,
where all that stuff is going crazy. I thought like the real last gasp. It sounded like to me anyway was when it's like, okay, it's an app on your phone. Like you can download this, you can connect it to your TV, and you can have your guitar with you. So
yeah,
basically, all you'd have to do is bring a guitar and your phone to anybody's place, and you can have your guitar night. And I was like, that's probably the best you could hope
yeah,
for, but we just don't do that anymore. That's not. I mean, COVID surely killed it dead, but even before
yeah.
COVID, it just didn't feel like you were having those kind
Did-
of parties. And you
that-
know what? We're not in college anymore, so I don't know. Maybe the college kids are still having these
I
kinds of
mean, that
nights where they're
was
getting
the
together.
time though. Like,
But yeah, it certainly felt like I had so many nights where it's like, okay, going over to friend's place. we're playing Rock Band tonight, so
Yeah.
what you kind of felt like karaoke. It's like, which songs am I gonna sing?
Yeah.
Which songs do I want to make sure I get the drums for, or am I playing guitar on? And you just have these big nights where everybody just played a bunch of
It's really
songs
cool.
together, and anybody who wasn't playing was drinking and yelling and having a good time. And that's I miss those times, but also I think I would rather just hang out with people and chat and talk and or play something else. Like I would much rather go and play a bunch of Smash Brothers with
Yeah.
people, or like Halo stuff now, where I don't think I'd want to do the guitar stuff, even though that was like a really cool time for sure.
Agreed. Agreed, man. What a time.
Hmm.
So your number 3 was the Stratocaster, correct?
Was the Rock Band 1 Stratocaster? Yep.
Very cool. Chase, my number 2 controller is the Sony DualSense 5.
Hey, my number 2 is the Sony PlayStation 5 DualSense.
It's a fantastic fucking controller. I love the way it feels. I think Sony's had the best evolution of feel for me on their controllers. Like, I didn't really like the DualSense 3. I really like the DualSense or the
Shock.
what was it? DualShock 4, DualShock 3. But the DualSense 5 is an incredibly innovative controller. I think all the sensory pieces you get with this make it feel like it does a great job of adding some tactile elements to a game. It gives you a depth and some sensory explosions that I really appreciate, whether it be a sound it makes, the color changing with your health around it. I think that the swiping on the trackpad is a great, just quickly pull up a map, go down. I like that there's an input for that. And I love how confident Sony is of that tech and how they can really showcase it and cool things with Astrobot and just make you feel the juice, make you feel the bounciness of something. I think there's something just so damn good about the tech in that controller. And it's fucking built well. It's a tough
Yeah.
controller. It's great.
I agree. I know like some people I know really hate the DualSense, and
Yeah.
I just don't get it. And it's super weird for me because I was always an Xbox guy. I liked the Xbox control. I liked the offset
Mm-hmm.
sticks of the Xbox controller S and the 360 controller. And for whatever reason, when I got to my Xbox One, I just didn't like the feel of it anymore.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the offset sticks that were the problem. It's just something felt off, even though the controller was very much just like, what if we made the Xbox 360 controller, but again?
Yep.
And for whatever reason, it just didn't work for me anymore. And when I moved over to a DualShock 4, I ended up liking it, but wasn't feeling, I still didn't love it. And those things were not built very well. I broke a lot of those controllers,
Yep.
and did not have a very good time with the DualShock 4. Um, but the DualSense has been awesome. The
Yeah.
battery life isn't great.
No.
My standard one that I got with my machine, my white one, um, doesn't really even get like an hour and a half of charge anymore out of a full
Yeah.
charge. But I had purchased a second one for use on the PC. And then you got me that controller for the PC. I was like, oh, well, I guess I don't need this DualSense anymore. So I just kind of
Sure.
like left it in a box. And then it was when I was like mainlining Metaphor at the end of last
Oh
year,
yeah.
my controller just kept dying on me because I was playing much longer sessions than an hour and a half. And I'm like, God, this sucks. I need to like stop playing Metaphor, and I have time and I want to keep playing it. And then I was like, oh wait, you have another DualSense, you idiot. So now
Yeah.
I've been playing with my other DualSense, and it's been great. Everything you said is right. It feels fantastic in the hand. It's got a great heft to it.
Yep.
Um, I usually don't like a bunch of extra bullshit on the controller, but I think all of the extra bullshit on this one at least isn't in the way. The
Yeah.
trackpad stuff that you talked about, like, is it feels great. It's there when you need it. It's got rumbly stuff in there. It's got the adaptive trigger stuff that I like, but none of it is like silly in your face kind of stuff.
Agree.
And it just feels good.
It feels
I'm
great.
I'm a huge fan of it, and I don't think I would go back to an Xbox controller anymore, which is so weird for me because I used to say fuck Sony and I was Xbox all the way, and now it's completely flipped.
Yeah. I mean, I still like my Xbox controller the most for playing on my PC, but if I play any Sony specific game on PC, I just plug the controller in and do that. And I also have my PS5 is right underneath my monitor here, and so I can just plug in there if I need to use it. But hell of a thing. Battery life sucks. I think we all agree. I haven't tried the I've never touched the Edge. Is that what it's called? The DualSense Edge, right? They're kind of they have like their version of the Elite now.
Oh, okay.
And it's not cheap. But
I believe that.
I'm just not quite sure like if it performs any better or feels any better there. But yeah.
Well, Bobby, to preserve the surprise, since that was both of our number twos, we're on my number one, which is tied to one of the ones that you said. So why don't I go next?
Yeah.
And then we'll save your mystery number one for last.
For sure.
So my number one, not the Wavebird specifically, but I just had the GameCube controller. It's a great controller. So I didn't own a Wavebird until after the GameCube was done. Like I
okay. I mean, they were expensive.
Yeah, they were a little bit expensive, but also I wasn't playing in an area where I needed a wireless controller. So a wired controller was just fine by me. And also, most importantly, the Wavebird did not come in Spice Orange, which I think that's a problem, baby. I need my Spice Orange GameCube controller. It's my favorite controller of all time, color wise. But also, it's just a damn good controller. Like the R and L buttons have that like push into them, and then like they have like a gate that when you clear that they click down, and that feels really good. The C stick, I think, as somebody who it's certainly not great for like a first person shooter. I'm not crazy.
You are. You're crazy. Well, I love you.
Okay,
you're crazy.
I'm crazy. But I wasn't playing like Metroid Prime and stuff and having a great time with the C stick. But what I did like it for was for Smash Brothers. Like I liked having your Smash moves on the C stick, and that felt really good to use. I think the placement of those buttons, even though it was really weird, having the big A button circle and then the X and the Y that were kind of rounded in those weird shapes, and then like the little B button right next to it. It felt weird. It felt like it shouldn't work. And for whatever reason, you just hold it in your hands and go, wow, this feels right. And it just, I remember playing so many GameCube games and just thinking, this feels awesome. I could play this all day. My hands feel amazing.
And look, Nintendo has a perfect opportunity to do something completely wild here. And the Switch Pro Controller 2 could just be a fucking new take on the GameCube. It could. They could easily do it. We don't know what the C button is on that right Joy-Con. We have no idea what that is. There's a unique chance here, Chase.
That's true. I think I almost put the Switch Pro Controller on this list because I really
thought you would. I thought you would.
I think it's a really good controller.
Yeah.
I just think it could be that little bit more better.
And, I don't love the shoulder buttons and the triggers. If those felt like the DualSense or the Elite, I could see that being maybe up there for sure, like way up there.
I wish the face buttons weren't so sharp.
There's not a stickiness to it.
Well, yeah, they also just have like the way that they feel like big cylinders that are just sticking out of the controller, and I wish they were a little bit more rounded or contoured in some way. It's not a huge deal. I love that controller. I use it a lot. But it is like a noticeable difference when I go from that to my DualSense, and you go, oh yeah, DualSense feels.
Is it weird that I'm more like, I've been more excited to see what the Switch Pro Controller 2 is compared to like the Switch 2. I kind of knew what the Switch 2 would look like.
I don't think that's crazy at all, because the Switch 2 looks and feels like more Switch to me, which I'm fine with. Yeah. But like this gives you like an extra thing that Nintendo could do something cool with.
I really hope
it's perfectly fine.
They're the offset thumbsticks. I hope that they mimic the same coloring that the Joy-Cons do. I hope there's the blue.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Just like those, like the same way that has like those inner thumbstick colors.
Just that.
Yeah,
do it that. I think that'd be a very slick controller.
All right, Bobby, you got a number one for us, and we haven't mentioned it at all, apparently. I'm excited to hear what it is.
I don't think you have to think too hard about what this is. Just look.
It's, uh, it's not that VR headset, is it?
Look at our stream.
Oh, okay, sure. I was like,
Yeah.
look, I'm looking in your background.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that VR headset. I'm like,
No,
please
no,
don't
no,
make
no.
it that
No.
VR headset.
No.
Sure, yeah, the SNES controller.
The Super Nintendo controller. This is, in my opinion, like the foundation. This is the Rosetta Stone to what we have today.
Yeah.
And it's pretty impressive for me. Like, think about the evolutions of controllers that we've had. But if you get to the base, like the core concept of what a controller is the Super Nintendo controller. And there's a reason it's so good. Is it the most comfortable thing to hold? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But it solved a lot of problems on a very strong jump. Like, talk about like going from the NES to the SNES controller is a pretty significant. The ergonomic change with the rounded corners. You had the shoulder buttons. You had 2 more buttons on it. The D-pad felt better. Had that rounded edge. It wasn't a sharp one. It felt really good to use.
Yeah, I mean there is that one like missing link between them that is the dog bone NES controller.
Yeah.
Which does have like more of that roundedness to it. But you're right. Like the main line, these the ones that came with the original systems, going from a flat rectangle to something that was a little bit more contoured, having the shoulder buttons on it, going from 2 face buttons to 4 face buttons.
Yeah.
It really did solidify of like, okay, this is what video games should be, and everybody else needs to make their controllers like this.
Yeah. And I think it's really crazy. Like, outside of like even Nintendo with the GameCube controller, it still had the core concept of a face button placement. And I think today you look at the Switch controllers, you look at the PlayStation controllers, you look at the Xbox controllers, and any of the other shit between it, that mapping that they put out on the Super Nintendo for the placement of face buttons has stood decades at this point in time. Yeah. And I think it's just a really beautiful controller. Like the gray inset with the light, the purple on it, like the color splash on it, the design of it, it is a modern fucking masterpiece to me. Like, I think that controller is so fucking cool. And I'm so appreciative that it still has some DNA across what we use today with controllers. And it's our logo. Like, there's a reason why it's our logo, for a good reason. And that's it, like that's our foundation.
It's a great looking controller, and it does what you want it to do. It's kind of wild that they went from that to the N64 controller, right?
Isn't it though?
And I actually really like the N64 controller.
I do too.
It wasn't gonna make my list, but
Same.
I'm not a hater on that.
No.
I like the controller that you need 3 hands to play. I think there's so many cool innovations in that controller that I just love.
Yeah.
But the idea that you went from what felt like this iconic, at the time, perfect controller to this crazy monstrosity. It's like, what the fuck are you doing, Nintendo? Why are you like this? You didn't have to do this. And Nintendo was like, yeah, but what if we did?
What if we did? And I also think it's just like, we covered this in one of our other deep dives when I can't remember if it was like a whole thing dedicated to commercials or ads. I think it was all ads. Oops, all ads. But there was a shift on the attitude. And I think when Sega came out and they had, the attitude that came with it, I felt the 64 just had like, this thing's fucking weird. It's very out there. It's got this edginess to it. They were doing all the color codes with it, the color wave shit. It's a cool thing. But the Super Nintendo controller will always be, for a lot of reasons, my favorite controller. And we have some really good controllers on these lists. This is cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a good time.
Lists are fun.
It's a great way for us to talk about a lot of different things in a relatively short amount of time. And, and then people get to yell at us
and tell us how wrong
how we were right or wrong. Yeah, mostly wrong, I'm sure.
Naturally. Well, Chase, we have a fun week left. We had a fun start to the week also. You took me to the bazaar, and I think I was a little critical at the stop of that, or the start of that, and then it ended up being a very, very cool thing.
Yeah,
that game was cool. A ton of fun. So we had the bazaar on Monday. We had our deep dive into controllers tonight. And on Friday, come hang out with me as I take out Nazis with style. And I can't wait to do it. So please join me. I already got a double kill. It wasn't as good as the last game where I went from one guy's headshot to another guy's ball sack, but this one was 2 heads in 1, and it was a fantastic time. So I'll be playing that Friday night. Come hang out. Chase, I noticed a really good looking post you made today, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, did you like that?
I thought
like it. You made it.
I thought that post looked very good. Tell me all about it as R2, my corgi, enters the room.
Yeah, so my YouTube channel, Chase K Plays, I finished playing Star Wars Battlefront, the original one. Ah, dog! Hi, dog!
We got a dog!
God, every time he looks at the camera, the eyes get super red and scary. Yeah, Chase K Plays, that's my YouTube channel. I've got, I finished playing Battlefront 1 and started moving on to Star Wars Battlefront 2, which, you'll have to see. Did I have the rose-colored glasses on for Battlefront 2 that whole time I was bitching about how Battlefield 1 controlled like shit? We'll see! But you can go check that out right now on Chase K Plays. Go check out the link tree there. And
Absolutely.
then I also have like Bobby made the thunder. It looks incredible. I love it. We got a little nice color swap on there to the blue because we're moving on to a new game. So good stuff all around.
Awesome.
And then I've got another podcast I do with my good friend Chris Shane called Pilot Program. It was the first episode of every television show ever made. There was a new episode that just went out last weekend, and that was on Aim for the Top Gunbuster, the 1988 anime classic. Chris and I had a great time watching that and talking about it. And we're moving on to Barry.
Awesome. 2018, 2019. I think it wrapped up in around pandemic, didn't it?
Yeah.
3 seasons, if I'm not mistaken. 4 seasons.
I think it might have been 4 seasons. I don't know. We'll talk about it on the episode. But that one I think we're recording here sometime in early mid-February. So that episode should be coming out relatively soon. But good time. You should go check out all those little episodes. Shows.acast.com.
Do it. Hell yeah. Well, Chase, thank you so much for going down this list. I loved doing it. I hope to do more in the future. And we'll be back on Friday with